Hello class 6. Today we'll be starting another chapter, that is chapter 8, and the topic that we are going to learn is about Michelangelo. So before we get into this, let me show you some pictures. Okay, so everyone have a look on these pictures. So this is the picture of High Renaissance art. Next, this is also one of the famous art. And this is the Renaissance architecture, and this is Renaissance sculpture. This is also the painting of Italian Renaissance. Okay, so these are some important and famous paintings done by the renowned people, okay, of that Renaissance period. So my question is, does anyone interested in painting? Yes, some of you must have, right? I do have interest in painting. So today we are going to learn about a famous painter whose name was Michelangelo. Alright, he was not only a painter, he was a sculptor. Okay, he was a sculptor and poet who lived nearly 500 years ago in Italy. During this time, there were many brilliant artists in Italy like Leonardo da Vinci and Raphael. Okay? Princes and leading citizens of the big Italian cities, as well as the popes who hate the Christian church, encouraged and supported this artist. So now we'll read here what happened when the people of the church asked Michelangelo, one of the greatest sculptor, okay, to paint. So let me begin. Michelangelo looked in surprise at Pope, but I am a sculptor, not a painter. I have never used colors in the way you wish me to. The Pope replied with finality, you will do as we wish, and it is a wish that you attempt this task. So here Michelangelo, it shows that Michelangelo was not very interested in painting. Okay, he had a secret interest to work on stone. Okay, that's why he was not willing to paint. Okay, he doesn't want to, accept the commission given by the Pope. But Pope here is saying that he could not change his decisions. Alright, he once decided, he had decided. Okay, he wished that Michelangelo had to paint, okay, that had been given by the Pope, right? So Michelangelo nodded and backed out of the room. His steps led him to the Sistine Chapel. It had a vast ceiling full of nooks and corners. Michelangelo had just been asked to paint a fresco on it. So here fresco refers to a watercolor painting on a wet plaster. It's a color, it's a watercolor painting. So Michelangelo nodded. Okay, he could not refuse to the Pope. Okay, so since it was white space there, right, he could not refuse whatever the commission had given by the Pope. So at last, ultimately, he accepted the commission, right? So Michelangelo Bernardo was born in Florence in Italy in 1475. Okay, he was born in 1475. He belonged to a distinguished family. So here, distinguished refers to successful, well-known and greatly respected family. Okay, he belonged to a very respected family. Michelangelo loved to draw even while he was very young. So since his childhood, he had an interest in painting. Okay. So in spite of his father's disapproval, he began to learn from the artist Domenico Ghirlandaio. Okay, so his father did not like his work at all. Okay, so in spite of his disapproval, father's disapproval, he began to learn from the artist Domenico. So everything, whatever he had learned, he learned from this famous artist Domenico Ghirlandaio. Alright, so he taught Michelangelo all that an artist ought to know about colors, forms and lines. But Michelangelo did not wish to remain a painter. Okay, his secret desire was to work on stone. He wanted to sculpt, not paint. Okay, interest in painting. He had the secret desire to work on stone, to become a sculptor. Right. So at this time, Leonardo de Medici, an important citizen of Florence, started a school for sculpture. Okay. The best sculptor of that time would be teaching there. To Michelangelo's delight, he gained admissions to the school. So at last, he had found the opportunity to work not merely on stone, but also on marble. So in this school, which was built by this person, Lorenzo de Medici. So in that school, he got an opportunity to study. Okay, so at last, he had found the opportunity to work not merely on stone, but also on marble. Alright. So next, Michelangelo's first piece of sculpture was on marble. So his first sculpture, the piece, was the statue of Jesus Christ. As you can see the picture over here, this is the first piece, masterpiece done by this Michelangelo, famous artist. Okay, so this is the statue of Jesus Christ after he was being crucified, and he was lying in the lap of Mother Mary. Right. So the Pietà, it is also called Dix Pietà, as the statue was called, had been sculpted before by many artists, but Michelangelo's depictions of Mother Mary's sorrow was unlike anything the people of Florence had ever seen. It was, amazing. Okay, Mary's face, youthful and filled with pain, moved people's hearts as they saw this work of genius almost come alive before their eyes. So Michelangelo happy with his work. Okay, he was so much happy, he was so much excited after he was being exaggerated by the people around him. Okay. He saw an enormous block of marble lying in the yards of Florence. Okay, so after that he returned to his born place Florence, and there he found a block of marble lying in the yard of Florence. So it loomed so huge and wide that he felt compelled to carve a marvelous human figure out of it. Okay. So the only problem was that it had a huge crack. Okay, so he wanted to create something. Okay, he wanted to create something more amazing out of that huge marble. All right. So sculpture afraid that the whole block would crack wide open and crumble if they started chipping at it, had not dared to touch it for years. So Michelangelo wanted to create something very rare out of that glistening white stone. Okay, he wanted to make something out of that block of marble. Okay, a perfect human form, the image of David battling Goliath. So he wanted to make the image of a human figure. So at last something creative came into his mind, and he wanted to make the image of David battling of Goliath. Okay, so he decided to carve out such a figure of the heroic shepherd boy as he had never been done before. So other sculptures had shown the merely courageous David, okay, who had killed a giant, but he would create a noble and valiant youth, deep in thought, filled with wisdom as well as strength. Michelangelo worked hard to sculpt the perfect human figure. So he worked hard very much. Okay, he even studied the human body closely so that he could draw the muscles and nerves accurately. Okay, so in order to create that human figure, he studied the human body very closely. Okay, to bring out the muscles and nerves accurately. So here accurately refers to correctly. Okay, so he created it with such care and feeling that the statue of David left the people of Florence speechless. Right? It was so amazing. Okay, it was so amazingly created by this famous artist Michelangelo. Many people felt that Michelangelo, a man of such super genius. So every people around there, they used to think that Michelangelo was a super genius, right? Would be able to paint just as well as the sculptor. So Michelangelo was asked to paint the 12 apostles. Okay, he was asked to paint the 12 apostles there on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Right. So Michelangelo studied the ceiling and front. The space was so vast that the figures would have to be huge. Okay. It was so vast. Okay, so he could not imagine also. But he, at last, ultimately, he accepted the commissions given by the Pope. It would be impractical. Finally, he agreed to paint only if he was allowed to choose the subject. Right? So many difficulties lay ahead for Michelangelo. So many, before he painted the ceiling, many difficulties he had to face. Okay, he came across so many difficulties, circumstances. Okay, how he would get up to the ceiling. Not only was a great height from the ground, but it extended over a vast area. Okay, it was extended over a vast area. He would need a scaffolding. Okay, so here scaffolding refers to a temporary structure made of wooden planks and metal poles for workmen to reach higher while constructing, repairing or painting building. It's a supporting material, okay, for the people, those who construct the building, right? So there are holes in the ceiling where the poles have been attached. Once these poles are removed, how will the holes be filled up? And who will fill them up? Let me design my own scaffolding. Okay, so he thought of, design his own scaffolding, right? So there were many other obstacles as well. So he had to face many other obstacles. So obstacles here means problems or difficulties that prevent progress or development. Okay, so it refers to the problems or difficulties. The first day, Michelangelo mixed the colors and carefully applied them. But the next morning, he discovered to his horror that the colors had no set. Okay, he tried it. On the first day, he tried, but colors, okay, which he had been put over there, it did not set properly. Horrified, he rushed to the architect. So here, architect refers to the professional who designed the buildings. Okay, he rushed to that architect. I had told them I would fail. I had warned them my colors do not set. And he told the architect that his color did not set properly. Right? So the architect inspected the damage and said, use a little less line. The paint will set. There is nothing else wrong. Okay, so architect then said that he checked properly. So inspected here means checked. Okay, so architect inspected the damage and said, okay, you have to use a little less lime. So lime here refers to a calcium-based white substance. It's a substance, okay, used to whitewash houses, right? So paint will set and it will be all right. Okay, everything will be done. You don't need to worry. The architect proved to be right. Okay, so finally the architect was right. He proved right, and Michelangelo went ahead with his task. Okay, and he went ahead. Okay, he went ahead with his task with full effort. It would require a great deal of strength and patience to paint the whole city. So Michelangelo chose 5 assistants. So since it was very vast ceiling, so he thought of bringing those assistants, okay, 5 assistants to help him out. Okay, but none of them could match his skill, and he sent them away. So he found them skillless. Okay, their skill, the 5 assistants' skill, did not match with the skill of Michelangelo. So he sent them away. He chased them away. All right. He was left alone with this challenging task. Now he was alone there. Okay, he had to face this big challenging task. What courage and endurance he brought to it. As he painted, he forgot everything else. Okay, while he was painting, he forgot everything. He would not eat or slept for hours on end. Alright? So next, it took Michelangelo 3 years to paint half the ceiling. So to paint half ceiling, he took 3 years. Okay, he worked 3 years to paint the half ceiling. By then, however, he had learned how to go about it. Okay, by the time he became used to with those paintings. Okay, and then confidence, he became confident as well. And the second half took him only 14 months. Okay, so second half he worked on it only 14 months. On 1st September 1512, the ceiling was declared open. Okay, and finally, 1st November 1512, the ceiling was declared open. It was completely ready. The man who felt he could not paint as well as he sculpted revealed himself. So here revealed means made known to others. Okay, to be a painter of genius. Okay, so he considered himself as a painter of genius. The painting was breathtaking with its countless details, vibrant colors and delicate figures. Michelangelo, however, wished to take up sculpting once more and devote all his time to it. Okay, so he put his whole, effort, okay, to it. But this was not to be. In 1534, he was asked to paint the east wall of the Sistine Chapel. Okay, again he accepted another commissions to paint the wall of Sistine Chapel. This time, Michelangelo chose to paint scenes of the Judgment Day. So he also, at this moment, he also chose to paint the scenes of Judgment Day. So here, Judgment Day refers to, in Christian thought, this is the last day of the world when God will decide everyone's fate according to the way they have lived their lives. Alright. So there were biblical as well as human figures. Okay, so that pictures depicting the story of Bible, okay, and other human figures. Some full of joy, others filled with fear, and yet others suffering and unhappy. The mammoth fresco inspired a great deal of awe, and when it was unveiled, okay, its impact was so powerful that the people of the church fell to their knees in prayer. Right? So with this, we'll come to the end of the story. Hope you all have understood. So we'll meet you in the next video. Thank you.